Boom. Okay, great. All right. So, Kimmie, I've been talking a bit about you. I hope I haven't. You might have been embarrassed by some of the things I've said because we've been studying Mahatma Gandhi and a lot of the great leaders of our times. And as you know, I see you in that spirit as an inspiration to me. And part of what inspires me about you is your human depth and your sincerity and your integrity. You know, which I think all great leaders have really manifested, really at some level, is that you're coming from a place that's so sincere, So what I'd love, because we watched the CNN piece as well, just now. I'd love to invite you to start off with a little overview of whatever you want to share about your story, knowing that we've covered the basic biography, but anything that you want to share just to connect with the students. And then we want to get into questions and answers around, especially your sense of what's going on in Africa and what your work is now, and how we can be involved and learn from it.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, good to be joining you. I've just flown into the U.S. on Monday, and I know Ocean had been trying to arrange this for quite a while. So I flew in from the sunshine of Liberia to very, very cold Boston. And so I'm trying to make do, but I'm actually, Ocean just introduced me, and there's many people who have written about me in the context as being a leader. Interestingly, I'm here doing a course at Harvard on leadership in the 21st century, so I guess there's no such thing as the end to education, but it's something that I'm enjoying. So, as you can tell, I haven't grown any gray hairs yet. I'm still a young person. I'm 31, but I've been working quite a bit on activism and humanitarian issues and making a difference in the world. Actually started since I was 14 in Liberia. And as you probably saw in the CNN profile, the big part of everything I've done has been rooted in my experience as a child in Liberia during the war, experiencing sort of like the intensity of being in war. Which again, as a young child growing up in Liberia, nobody ever thought we're going through this circumstances or something that happened. And I think that's what happens in most of our experiences in life. Some of your experiences might not necessarily be as traumatic as being in the middle of a civil war, but every part of our life, every aspect of our life, we come up with these unexpected things that has a huge role in shaping who we are as a person and determining sort of where we will go in the future. And so that was a big thing for me, that point in my life when I was going through Liberian Civil War, facing starvation as a young child, being sick without medication, and really nearly dying. And basically, there's a strong chance that I would not have been sitting here today. But that very intense period in my life was the driving force of saying I want to spend the rest of my life working to make sure that no child goes through anything that I went through in terms of hunger, in terms of being sick without medication, but more so being in conditions where there's war and there's extreme human suffering. And so that has really been sort of like the guiding principle in my life and what I've done. And I can tell you it's never been easy. I mean, there's many times that people might look at my website and they might look at my profile, and obviously if you read my bio, there's this very, very long list of accomplishments and awards, or in any of the videos you might see online, what you'll see is there's sort of like this transition from the period of the war where things were very tough, and then I made this vow, and then it comes out after that with all of these accomplishments and organizations that have started. But what I've often said is that there's never been a point where it's been a smooth ride. There's always been great difficulties. There's always been great challenges along the way. Even though people around the world, whether it's in Liberia, I mean, if I'm in Liberia, it's sort of like this sense of almost like a celebrity. But even in my daily life now, on many, many aspects, there's a lot of struggles as a person, as a leader, as someone who wants to bring change. And so I say to people that this should be the challenge, that even if you have reached whatever your initial goals were, realizing that there will always be some difficulty. And as they say, the key is not about failing, but it's how you pick up and how you rise up from that after. So right now, I live in Liberia. I was fortunate to come to the States in 1997. 1999. I left Liberia because of my work fighting against the use of children as child soldiers. The Liberian president, then President Charles Taylor, tried to kill me for my work with child soldiers. And imagine I was 17 at that point, or 18, going on 18, and having to leave Liberia and come to a brand new country and leave everything behind, leaving my mom behind and everything. And coming to the U.S. and starting again, I had gone from being on a national platform where I was debating issues with the presidents and speaking at the UN and being recognized on New York Times and Washington Post, to coming to the U.S. and taking my first job working at McDonald's, flipping burgers. So it was a huge transition. Most people would have gotten depressed and said this is the end. But for me, it was just the start of a new challenge. And being in the U.S., I got the chance to go to finish my high school year, go on to college, start an organization while I was in college called Youth Action International. And really, youth action, the concept of youth action started my second year of college. I was with a bunch of classmates. I think that day we were having a chicken and beers. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk to you about beers to a college class. But that was it. And a bunch of my classmates said, listen, Kimmie, why don't you start a youth art organization? Yeah, why don't we start something? Your whole life has been in humanitarian work. And I say, yeah, let's do it. And that's basically how Youth Action International started. And we started very, very small. It wasn't sort of like waking up and saying, I'm starting this international organization. It started with a very simple vision of linking American college students with opportunities to fundraise for causes abroad. And so the first few projects we had was simply doing small fundraisers on campus where we're raising money for UNICEF and for other organizations that were doing work. In a couple of years, we decided to set it up as an organization doing work directly in Liberia or in Africa. And that's when the vision rose up to become an international organization working in post-war African countries to make a difference. And I remember that the first year we started, we only had a few $1,000s. It was very, very tough fundraising for the mission, and trying to get the support, because one of those things is, especially for those of you in the room who might be interested in humanitarian work, and I've met so many young people, is that if you have this great concept of something to transform the world, there's usually this sense that there will be this outpouring of support, that, you know, there will be this endless chain of resources from the very beginning. And I know from my experience, and so many other people who have worked on this kind of thing, even the young woman who started Teach for America, for example, went through several years of struggles trying to get sustainable funding for her organization. But it was the determination that worked, and we just kept on pushing. We just kept on finding different ways to raise funds and raise money. And obviously today the work has continued to grow from Liberia to Sierra Leone to Uganda to Rwanda to Burundi. We've gone from helping a few hundred people to helping several thousand people every year. And it's a vision that continues to grow, and a dedication that continues to grow. So it's one of the prospects, and I'll start to wrap on this and give you the chance to ask questions, but it's one of the prospects I see for hope in the continent, or across the continent of Africa, because there are so many problems that face Africa, and these are deep, entrenched problems. But I also see the solution in the young people across the continent who are fighting to make a difference, who want to see it make a difference. I see it in young people across the world who are contributing in one way or another, volunteering their time, going to Africa, despite the fears of their parents, etc., and saying, "Hey, I want to get out there. I want to get difference in Africa," and I think that's continuing to make a huge difference. And that is my hope for Africa. It's the collaboration, it's the innovation, it's the determination, it's the vision, it's the leadership of the young people to make the world a better place. And I know that this possibility of ending extreme poverty is something that, if we really put our hearts towards, it's something that could happen. So I'll pause there for a minute and just give you the chance to ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer as much of your questions as I can.
So go ahead and sit up here so Kimmie can see you, if you and then talk to him over here, so we can be that much more connected. Let's see. Okay.
Hi, Mr. Weeks. My name is Stevie. I was just wondering, you said that there's always going to be some difficulty that you're facing. What is the biggest difficulty that you and your organization face today?
Well, that's a question. It's happened different difficulties at points. I think most people in their
Oops. You know what, Kimmie? We're missing a lot of what you're saying. So, but
okay.
Oh, let's see if it sounds better now. Yeah, let's start the call over. Let's do a fresh call, okay?
Okay.
Okay.